Hi everyone, and welcome to that interview experience with me, Ash Taylor, and Helen Sanders, my co-host, probably more important host, I would have said. How are you, Helen, this morning?
Stop it. Good morning. Yes, you can just keep saying nice things and I'll stick around.
That's fine. We need you to stick around, otherwise this would be really rubbish if it was just...
Oh, so no pressure then.
No pressure.
I'll bring it today, don't worry.
Excellent. So we're joined by Paul Croker this morning as well, which is brilliant. How are you, Paul?
I'm good, thank you. How are you both doing?
Yeah, I'm good. Helen, you're good? Yeah, it's a good day. It's nice. The sun is shining. It just makes such a difference. I love that. My golf clubs are staring out the window and going, oh, take me out, and one of those things.
Not long now, right?
Yeah. I've got a countdown somewhere. I think it's 13 days or something like that. 29th of March. 29th. Not long. Let's just crack on. Paul, do you want to just let people watching, listening, know what it is that you do? So we just got a little bit of context for our interview questions. We're not interviewing you, obviously. We're going to learn about interviewing.
No.
But yeah, a bit of context would be really helpful for everybody.
Sure. So I founded and run a company called 18IT. We are, in essence, a break from the norm. So we're not traditional IT support. We are outsourced IT managers. And if you like, we're the glue that coordinate the support with the proactive stuff that the businesses are looking at growing or bringing in new solutions, and just making sure that your actual equipment and what you're doing is fit for purpose and is enabling your team rather than blocking it.
And before that, you had a major corporate life, didn't you?
Yes. So
don't sound so happy about it, Paul.
Yeah. Yeah. Then before that, I was an outsourced. Well, I was IT IS coordinator for a large company called Thales Linear Space, which was pan-European. So I'm used to dealing with people with different nationalities, different cultures, different understandings, and it was a really rich tapestry. So I'm looking to take that and bring that into my clients, basically.
Cool.
I've just finished. I've just finished reading it for the second time. A brilliant book by Matthew Syed, who wrote Bounce, Black Box Thinking, You Are Awesome, which is aimed at young people. He hosts Flintoff, Savage, and the Ping Pong Guy. So he's the ping pong guy.
Mm-hmm.
And he's just started a new podcast called Talent Takes Practice. But his last book was called Rebel Ideas. And you just reminded me of that because he talks very much about this principle of cognitive diversity, not just bringing, male, female, gay, straight, whatever it is, into the room, but trying to bring people of completely different cultures and backgrounds and educational basis into a space to create an environment where you've got deliberate debate and deliberate friction, because from that you're in a position to start solving complex problems. I'm just curious, just as a little aside, or maybe it's not, but when you're interviewing and you're out looking for people, and I know technically you're not allowed to do this, but do you deliberately try and grow your team through that sort of diversity?
It's yes. In a short answer, yes. It's more from IT is quite fast paced and is chopping and changing all the time. There's new technologies, new ways of doing things. So to have a static team or a static mindset isn't really going to cut it these days. Yeah. So one of the areas we're looking in is around cybersecurity and making sure companies' stuff is safe and secure. And that in its by definition is constantly evolving and constantly changing. So having people who can be proactive, can think on their feet, and maybe come at something slightly different is really important. So that's probably one of the things I'm looking at when I'm going through that interview process or talking with people to see if they're a right fit to work with or to partner or to employ them, is actually how do you approach things? Do you have a can-do approach, or are you kind of like, no, that's not it, and this is what I do?
There's a theme, Ash.
There is a theme, because we asked a variation of that question, which basically is, what do you look for in a young person interview? And everybody we're speaking to now, even before we started recording these, was saying, mindset, attitude, the teachability was a good one, wasn't it?
Yep.
Great word.
Yep.
A willingness to learn.
Yeah.
And I'd be interested in your views on that. So when you are kind of in that interview situation, what are you looking for in a young person, and specifically young? I mean, I know this is might be helpful to others.
It's interesting. I mean, looking to it about the person rather than okay, yeah. So qualifications are important to a certain extent, but I also like to see what they've done and how they approach things. So, can you come up with something that's a bit different? Can you bring something different to the party, so to speak? And just who are you? What makes you you? You know, it's similar to when we talk to each other about businesses. You know, okay, so you're an accountant. What makes you different from the next accountant? For me, it's a similar sort of thing to that, really. And it's just to have a chat with them to understand, take down those barriers. I know quite a few people these days. I know it's like when I was younger and going into interviews, I was always petrified. I was like, my God, it's like I'm waiting for that spotlight in my face. And if I step or stray away or could give the wrong answer, then there's the door, sir. Thank you very much, but no, thank you. So again, trying to take that old school approach away is important to me. And that arm around the shoulder, we're in this together. If you're the right fit, you're the right fit. And let's find out if that's the right thing.
Interesting.
How do you spot that though? How can you identify that before an interview? So, you know, if you get CVs, for example, from younger people, so their experience will be limited. Although in IT, I think it is one of those industries that we can mismatch. Oh, well, they've done they've done their CCNA, they've done this, they've done that. Really, I want to see, how many computers did you take apart and rebuild that your mother was really annoyed with you about? You know, what did you break? Where's the VCR?
Yeah.
Why did you break it? And then how did you put it back together again?
Helen, 16 to 18 VCR, I think you just
VCR,
lost.
sorry. Oh my God, I'm so aging. That's terrible. Okay, VCR is a...
you can't even say DVD player, can you?
No. What is it these days? PS5. It's a PS5.
PS5.
Don't take your PS5 apart. They're way too... Yeah, just don't. They're too rare. So Paul, how can you see that? How can you see the can-do attitude that you talk about on a CV?
I would say it's around, it's not necessarily around the qualifications, but it's around the extras. So their experiences, their hobbies, and their interests. And for me, that gives away quite a bit then, because if I'm looking to employ someone in a purely technical role, as you alluded to, Helen, they need to have something where they have a keen interest in doing that, because that's what we're needing them to do, or they're going to have to do with inside their role, what they're here to do.
Yeah, absolutely. One of the companies that we help, real, cutting edge tech company, I love it when someone says that they're into Lego on their CV, because they've had the bottle to actually be honest with me and say they build Lego, and also I build Lego, although I just follow the instructions. But it shows that they're happy to show me who they are. They're not putting on their CV what they think I want to see. Do you see what I mean? Because I think in IT for you, Paul, it'd be very easy for someone to have done an NVQ in, let's say, information management or IT systems or support, and have done very well, got double distinction or whatever it is, and they were captain of the first team, actually does sport and IT, so I'm being a little bit stereotypical here, but do you know what I mean? I need to see more than that for you, really. So what would excite you?
Oh, that's a good one. I think showing an initiative. So if they've got an experience where they've actually had to go out and do something, it's always difficult with IT, because you don't tend to get people that are like outdoorsy or would like go, right, I'm a leader, I'm leading a team of people. They tend to be individual. They tend to be, again, being stereotypical here, in a room, dark place, give me the tech and I'll fix the tech stuff, which is great.
But they are inherently problem solvers, aren't they?
Yes, they are.
Yes, absolutely. And that's great, because you need that in some areas. But for business, to have somebody like that is difficult for them, because you can't always communicate or talk to them how they want to be spoken to, and they can't do the reverse. So there's a bit of a mishmash going on there. So for me, it's about the right people in the right roles.
Yeah.
This is fascinating because there will be people watching and listening to this of school leaver age,
Yeah.
who are sitting there going, I don't, you know, they may not use the word geek, but they inherently, they know that they're very introverted,
Yeah.
that they do like working alone, that they do just want to have their headphones on and crack on and solve problems with a keyboard. And that's where their little zone of genius is.
Their happy place. Yeah,
And
absolutely.
their happy place. But we're asking them as employers, schools are asking them as part of their function and structure to put themselves out there and potentially, you know, shine a light and put stuff on their CVs or pretend to be somebody that they're not, so that they get noticed. But actually what you're saying, Paul, is that as a leader in your industry, you recognize that the sort of people that you want to attract can't do that.
Yeah, it's very much, I believe there's almost like a role for every kind of person. It's almost like a rugby team. Again, going back to sport, there's a position for every type of person. You know, body type, stereotypically. It's the same thing with IT. You have some people that are not people, so they don't want to be bothered by other people coming into them, and they're very much about the detail, and they'll replicate the same process time and time again, because that's what they're all about. They're all about the technical aspects. This is what I need to do. I know what I need to do. I just need to, you know, stop bothering me and coming up to him, dragging me away, do something else, because I know this is what I need to be doing and this is what I want to focus on. And that's great.
Yeah.
But then some of them, you need that ability to be able to talk and face other people. I learned, when I can recall, my first IT role was actually in an accountancy in Clifton here in Bristol. And it was an old traditional accountancy where you had senior partners in their little cubbyhole meeting areas, and the rest of the staff were scattered around. And there was very much a very, very clear hierarchy. And if you're on the third floor, that was an elevated place of privilege. And those people, you had to treat those people differently. The other people around there, yeah, you're fine. But even with that kind of almost non-formal sort of process, or how things were laid out, I still was able to go around there and be myself. So I could talk to everybody in the building, whether they were a cleaner or the CEO of the whole practice, and give them the same kind of service, if you will, irrelevant of that, but still meet those requirements, because I had the ability to understand, actually, this role that I'm in now is a people role, because these people here aren't IT technical. They have issues. They've got blocking points. I just need to enable them to do what they need to do.
It's really interesting. So how do you? Because I'm it's really, I love this as an insight, because how do you encourage someone who is introverted to stand out? How do you find them? How do you get them to, without them not being authentic?
I just think it's just, you need to be you. And if you're trying to put something down on the piece of paper that isn't you, then you're going to end up in a role that you're not going to be happy with. And there'll be conflict for yourself, or you'll just feel uneasy. You won't have that sort of that wow factor that, yes, this is the right fit for me. And I think sometimes those people can struggle to find that right fit because they feel that they don't fit.
So would you rather somebody said on their letter or their CV, I prefer working on my own, not brilliant in a team, but I am able to concentrate for long periods of time on tasks and produce work at a high rate of excellence?
Absolutely. Honest and integrity is important. And I think it's the same no matter which sector or industry you're in or what role you're in. To be honest, sincere, and come from the right place is the foundation blocks. If you get that wrong, then it's kind of like, well, why is that? Why are you doing that? Why are you putting yourself in that position there? Because you feel you have to do that, but then you're not going to be happy in that role. You're not going to be performing well. Potentially you could get, pulled up because you're not doing what they're expecting you to be doing. And it's just conflicts at almost at each turn. So absolutely, just be honest and be upfront. So if you're better working alone, then absolutely say that.
Yeah, and I think there's the two words that sprung to mind as you were saying that, Paul, is that level of self-awareness. So being able to recognize, actually, I'm going to be better for you, Mr. Employer or Mrs. Employer, if I'm left to my own devices. And as an 18-year-old, because that's who we're looking to help here, is school leavers. As an 18-year-old, that takes a level of bravery to be so self-aware as well, and to put it out there, which is where that honesty bit comes in. I'm not expecting every 18-year-old to be able to say that on a CV.
Yeah.
And I'm okay with that. That's okay. But be as honest with yourself as you can to show other bits and pieces. Because actually saying on a CV, I work best on my own, just leave me alone, basically, can be quite hard. However, saying that you have painted a whole battle scene of miniature models, that tells me a lot, because that's usually not a team game. You know, that's usually a very solitary, very focused hobby. Well, that tells me a lot about who you are and how your happy place, as you said, Ash, you know, that area of genius that you want to be within. So I guess what I would say in terms of that 18-year-old that we're looking to help here and now, be as honest as, be who you are. Don't hide the fact that one of your best things that you do each week is taking your family dog out for a 3-hour walk. Put that on there. That also tells me something. If you listen to podcasts, tell me what those podcasts are. If you play games, if you follow YouTubers, tell me who they are. If you've, okay, forget the VCR, I'm never going to live that down. If you've deconstructed a microwave, okay, happy with that one? If you've deconstructed something technical in your house and put it back together again, I want to see that. I want to see, you know, that you've done some IT stuff as well, clearly. Especially for you, Paul, you know, that's you need to know that they know their way around Windows or whatever, or networking. If they've set up their own Linux server, great, tell me that.
It's more powerful if they've set it up themselves as a hobby or done something as a hobby, because it shows that they like it that much. They're doing it where they're not being paid, and they're doing it on their own time. And those elements on their own, to me, speak volumes.
Yeah, I agree.
And
what about go on, Ash.
No, I was just going to say that it's interesting because we've putting my kind of money where my mouth is, if you like, and I found a lad at the school that I volunteer at as an enterprise advisor, and I'm not going to put him under huge amounts of pressure, but his job is going to be doing the producing of this you know, podcast and stuff, and I'm paying him for it. We're paying for it. But I could have gone out and found myself somebody on people per hour and really experienced and all the rest of it. And I just gave a shout out to the school and I said, look, does anyone in the sixth form want to produce this podcast? It's a little bit of a, you know, secret project. We don't know how it's going to go, but I just want someone to do it. And he got in touch and he just didn't send me a CV. He just literally just went, I work part-time for a sound engineering company, not done a lot. I really want to learn more. I probably can't do a perfect job for you, but I'll be able to do a job for you. Could I be considered for the role, please? And I was like, honest.
Yep.
And, you know, within a day, he set up a group, Watson and Hannah, and he just asked questions all day long. Would you want it like this? I've got this idea. What do you think of this piece of music? And he's just constantly immersing himself in the process because he recognizes that he's learning and this isn't a career for him. He's going to do it until he finishes sixth form, maybe, you know, or as long as the podcast lasts, but he's adding to his portfolio of experience. And we've given him permission to fail, and I think that's quite important as well.
I don't ever think you really fail unless you draw the line at that and you stop. I think when you fail, you learn, and then you can make changes, and then you can grow.
Yeah, that's I think that's important. So coming back to that in the context of interviewing, do you think young people see each interview as a sort of siloed endpoint? Yeah, I've got to achieve in this interview, and if I don't, I have failed. Or do you know, how do we create environments where actually look, it's just another meeting?
Yeah, I think it's there's a lot of pressure. Themselves, society, parents, of you must do well here now. This is important. If you mess this up, you know, that's a bad thing to be doing. And it's like, well, no, to start with, I used to feel that same way. So the first few jobs I went to, I was absolutely petrified. I'm there in my suit. I don't normally wear a suit. Collar and tie all done up. It was hot, sunny day in the summer. And
that just makes you hotter.
Yeah. I was like, I'm on edge. They like, do you want a drink? I'm like, no, because I'm going to spill it all over
Everywhere.
So I'm sat there and I'm just going through my CV, thinking these questions on all the bits and pieces and the layout and what I've been doing and the experiences and all the rest of it. And then I just stopped and was like, what are you doing? Just take a deep breath. Just be you.
Yeah.
And that's the best thing to say is go into these interviews or these meetings with people and just view it as a chat. Yes, it's a formal chat, but as a chat, like you would with somebody you haven't spoken to for a while, who's asking you how you are, what you've been up to, and having a catch up. It's just in a formal process.
And also, if you've got the confidence as an 18-year-old, remember that you're also interviewing the business owner or the employer.
Exactly.
It may not feel that way. It may feel very one-sided. And that's just culture, unfortunately. If you call something an interview, it feels very Q&A and very them and us. Whereas if you think about it as a meeting, it's a 50-50, it's even plateau. I appreciate that as a young person, that's very difficult to put your mind into that, but that's essentially what it is. Going back to your question, Ash, about, do you fail? Is it siloed? Is it this job interview means everything? Well, it might do. It might be your absolute dream job. However, if you don't get it, there will be other opportunities, and learn from what that was, which was just a meeting. It happened to be that there was a job potentially.
I love this principle of the meeting, because I think it does really reframe it it reframes it into, this is a joint venture opportunity.
Yeah.
Because we have to remember, and anybody listening and watching this has to recognize that if you come to me for a job, to come to work for me, it's a two-way exchange of value. You're going to bring skills, attitude, enthusiasm, probably the attitude and enthusiasm over and above the skills at this point. My job as an employer is to impart the skill element and to continue to enthuse you. You give me your time, I give you money in return. It's a value exchange. But it doesn't work if you go into the interview thinking it's all about what they can squeeze out of me. It has to be a two-way process, and I think if you can frame it like that when you go into it, it's a better platform to.
I think those are really good points that both you've just made there, and that's so key. And also, it might be the fact that you, on paper, you look at you think, wow, this is the best job. I am so well suited to this. I need this. You go in there, you see the office or the place that you're going to be working in the rest of it, you see the people in, you're thinking, my goodness, it's so like clinical. It's like clear cut, and no, I couldn't possibly, so bright, and this isn't the right place for me. But I'm here now, and I have to, I have to kind of go through this process. Yeah, go through the process. It doesn't necessarily mean that you absolutely at the end of that question, the thing, if they say, what do you think, and the rest of it, you have to say, yes, I still want this job. It's, as you said, Helen, it's a two-way street. It's a two-way process. You can ask questions about the business, and that's really, really valued. So doing your homework before you go into the interview to find out about the business is just as important as getting your stuff together. So when you go in there, you can give a good, open and honest representation of who you are and how you do things.
I always remember, just going back 8-9 years, my old tennis coaching business, and we were interviewing for coaches at one of our clubs, and I didn't recognize it at the time, but hindsight is 2020 obviously. And this adult came along for tennis lessons at one of our adult groups. I'll turn up and play mixing groups, and I didn't think anything of it. I wasn't the coach. I came along, and I remember thinking a little bit that he looks like he should be better than he is, but really didn't think very much of it. And he turned up for a job interview a week later, and what he'd done basically is he played left-handed, turned up at the club. He wanted to know what our environment was like, what our culture was like, what our coaching style was like, what our how we registered people in, how we registered them out, and he wanted to get a feel. Because he recognized that, and he was only 16, 17, he recognized that he had a choice as to whether this is somewhere he wanted to work or not.
Wow. Yeah.
Love it.
So he put himself in the shoes of a customer. How do we, because if, his view is, well, how do we treat paying staff and paying customers? That's going to give him a real insight into how I treat my staff.
Yeah.
And I took him on, and I didn't know. It was only afterwards he said, do you remember me? Once I'd offered him the role, I was like, no. I said, I came to one of your sessions. Like, oh my God,
Yeah.
Wow, brilliant. To be honest, I could have skipped the interview and just known he'd done that, and it would have been enough for me.
That's like the Uber mystery shopper.
Yeah. Well, here's the thing that I mean, day in, day out, I'm helping companies, aren't I? I help companies find awesome people, whether they're 18 or the oldest person. I think 72 is probably 73 is the oldest person I've helped find a new job. So there's hope for us all yet, guys. And I think with small companies, there is that piece that you, as a young person, you do have the opportunity to test drive and see if the environment's right for you. Another way to do it is to look at the large organizations, look at McDonald's, what that experience is as a customer, and on a CV, well, not even on a CV, for your experience, working in a McDonald's, working in a Pizza Hut, working in those kind of environments is awesome. Get yourself a chambermaid job at the Travel Inn or Premier Inn or wherever. You will learn tons, and it plays well in terms of your confidence going forwards. So don't worry if you can't test drive. The fact that it was tennis coaching makes it easier. If it's a restaurant, that makes it easier post-COVID. But yes, I mean, for someone like you, Paul, it'd be difficult for a younger person to test drive who you are and work out who you are and work out if they want to work with you. But they can do it in other ways. They can check you out online and see what you're all about. And you're everywhere,
Follow you on LinkedIn, follow you on Twitter, all that sort of stuff.
Yes,
definitely,
exactly right.
Definitely. But I think as well, just in terms of young people today, really, is any experience you can get hold of, take it, embrace it.
Very
so
true.
get the part-time jobs. Don't see anything as being beneath you, because you learn what it's like on the roots level at that bottom level, and then when you move up through and your career changes, you might actually find, wow, I really enjoy this type of work, which I wasn't even thinking or entertaining as a possible career, but I'm actually quite good at that. I quite enjoy it. That's absolutely fine. Why not explore it?
Well, you're right, because sorry, I was going to say really quickly that work, we get paid to solve problems. Fundamentally, that's what work is, isn't it? You get paid to solve problems, and entrepreneurs just solve bigger, more complex problems, or problems that people didn't know that they had. So when you're coming into the workplace, if you can turn around and say, I've said yes to lots of things and then worked out how to do it afterwards, then you're a problem solver. And I genuinely believe that those people who earn more are just better at solving problems. So show that you can solve problems.
Yeah.
Sorry, Helen, I interrupted you.
Shows that you can learn as well.
Yeah.
And it's that forward thinking, again, it's that reactive, proactive balance. When something goes off or something wrong happens, you get a good measure of how someone is. So do they get flustered easily under pressure? And then how do they respond to that? And it comes back to how people are as individuals. Some people can do that, and you see them under huge amounts of pressure, and they pick up a phone to somebody who's shouting and blaring at them, and the next they turn around to the person in the office and they're going, "So, how's your afternoon?" You're like, how can you have such a really calm conversation after someone's just been shouting and bellowing at you for 15 minutes? It's amazing, people's skill sets. So absolutely.
Yeah. Fascinating. Paul, it's been amazing. Thank you so much for giving your insight and your experience and opinion in the world of work.
Thank you for the invitation to come along today. I've really enjoyed my time here. Thank you. And hopefully I can help add some value to some people out there.
Yeah, I'm sure that was a really good discussion. So I'm sure there'll be a lot that comes out of it.
Cheers, Paul. Good to see you.
You too. Always a pleasure.